This is the talk of Music City Real Estate.
Welcome back to another episode of the Talk of Music City Real Estate,
where we educate and motivate all things real estate.
My name is Monty Moore with Realty One Group Music City.
Hey, and I'm Carrie Ann with CMG Financial and my mortgage team.
Every week we'll be posting a new episode chock full of Nashville real estate value.
Yes, and you can follow along and subscribe at talkmusiccity.com.
Got a question for us? Ask away at questions@talkmusiccity.com.
Monty.
Carrie Ann.
So good. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. And man, we've got one of my favorite people on the planet with us today, Mr. TJ Ojehomon.
Oh. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, brother.
Glad to be
Happy
back.
New Year. So good to have you, TJ. Thank you for joining us. I thought we'd kick this year off with, again, one of my favorites, and that's you, sir, because you have a great perspective, great backstory, great background prior to getting into real estate. And I think you see things from a different perspective. Mm-hmm. Is why I like having you on.
Keeps me on my toes because of it.
The financing background, and property management background, and
a true teacher at heart.
Good heart background, and anyway, a dad, husband.
Too kind, guys.
And no, it's just for real. It shows in your work effort out there, and your loyalty from your clients and so forth, and certainly mine and Carrie Ann's. We believe in you, brother. Thank you again for joining us today. A couple things I wanted to cover with you today. One of those is building a team, because you have and are, and you're working down that path. Mm-hmm. The other thing is your perspective of the changes that have taken place. I mean, I know we beat the topic up about the lawsuit changes and so forth, but we're still getting so much feedback from people as to how do I ask for my commission, and how do I do this, and how do I do that? You know, it's amazing to me how many times I get that asked almost every day. And we've gone
from agents.
From agents. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing to me that those questions are still being asked. So, you know, I mean, the more we hear it, the more we understand it, the better we're able to convey it. And the more confident we are, because at the end of the day, I love what Daryl Davis said. The number one thing everybody should be working on is their confidence on the topic. Because if you don't have confidence on the topic, and you go to some buyer and say, or seller, say, this is what I think I'm worth, good luck with that. You know, they've got to buy you before they buy what you're selling. Mm-hmm. Right. So anyway, first of all, TJ, let's talk about, you have a team. Mm-hmm. You have intentionally growing a team. It doesn't just happen. You intentionally started thinking that way before you really needed to do that.
Right.
I think part of that may be because you are a teacher and you hold yourself out as the teaching realtor. Mm-hmm. My small-mindedness interpreted that as you're teaching the consumer only, not that you're teaching the agents as well, but you're doing both, and doing both in a wonderful way. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about, there's a lot of folks out there who are thinking about either starting a team or maybe joining a team.
Right.
Let's talk about the pros and cons of doing that.
Yeah, I think I had this conversation yesterday. I had a college student reach out, and they were asking, hey, I'm thinking about getting in real estate, and what kind of angle do you think I should take? And I said, well, once you kind of get in, I think one of the healthiest spaces to probably start off with, especially if you hadn't been in business, if you hadn't been in entrepreneurship yet, is to look at joining a team. And so from the side of joining a team, and I've seen some very successful team agents or team members that do really, really well because they utilize the systems and they're
already in place for people.
Yeah, the strategic implementation. Yeah, that's set forth. And so it's a great way to learn. It's a great way to get mentorship. I mean, you can, and here's the thing. I think sometimes when we're talking about a team model, there is the hesitation because of, splits involved in a model, right? And so what happens is a team lead takes on a bigger risk on your behalf. They already have business acumen, and they already have a presence in their sphere, and they're going to be able to help create opportunities in business for you that you're not going to be able to do for yourself. And so in exchange for that benefit, you pay in splits. people get so concerned about that, but it's kind of like, do you want 100% of nothing, or do you want 50% of something? And so I think just learning to invest in your career early on, education, insight, wisdom, experience is incredibly valuable in our business. And so I think that's a great way to look at it when you're coming into the business. As far as starting a team, I think really when you are at a capacity to where you have a level of business that really involves, in order to create the scale of success that you started off with, expanding into a team and putting multiple people in multiple places at once with the same intention, with the same standard, that helps you to be able to implement what you do at a farther reach. And so I think of it as, how much further could I go if we had a collective of people that have the same heart and the same vision to be able to help execute the same goals. A lot of my team members came to me. I didn't really go necessarily and hunt for team members. A lot of them came to me saying, I love what you do. I love how you lead. I want to learn from you. And that's kind of where we started. And my team members have stayed with me a couple of years, and just enjoy the aspect of hearing those experiences, hearing those stories of the clients that we work with and how we're able to serve them. And so team models are underrated. But if you want to scale, it's a great opportunity to help look at it from a business aspect. And if you want to learn, it's a great opportunity to find somewhere that somebody is invested in you. I think, as a broker, you only have so much capacity when you're dealing with hundreds of agents. And so a team lead is able to kind of give you that more intentional focus.
And I think there's two different types of teams, right? I mean, you can have a team where it is one leader, right? And then those people work for that specific leader, or you have multiple folks that are bringing a little bit to the table, right? Each person has their own name, and they're representing a top brand, right? So I think there's two different types of teams, and it just depends upon what you're looking for. But I truly believe you're right. I'm so grateful for, and you always say success leaves clues, right? Surround yourself with people who already did it, right? I'm going to watch you, talk the talk and walk the walk. Right. And if we align with the same, like you said, passion, and heart, and I love that, most likely you're going to do it the way that I'm going to want to do it. Right. And so I'm going to learn so much from you. So I think that's a huge win on both sides, of the spectrum.
Totally. It's totally win that way, especially when you can connect with a guy like TJ, who comes from a place of taking time, sitting down with people, scheduling times to really actually train. It's one thing to hook up with a so-called team leader who kind of says, okay, there's your pen and pencil or whatever, and good luck. It's another thing to have, I've seen the man sitting down with people and really educating them in the process. But I want to touch on one thing really important, I think, for everybody. If you're newer to the business and you're thinking about joining a team, hey, look, we all want to make money, but the topic of split, I'm sorry, if you're new, you have, no offense to anybody, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but you haven't earned the right to have an opinion on that topic. Again, I know everybody wants to make money, 1,000%. But the value of connecting with the inertia, that momentum factor is so huge. Let me tell you a quick story. I don't know if I've told this with this level of transparency, but when I moved here to Tennessee, I had been in business for about 15 years. I had already owned 2 real estate companies. I was married at the time. Somebody wanted to get in the music industry is how I got here. And I realized that real quickly that nobody cared. Even though I was #1 realtor in Brevard County, Florida at the time when I left, nobody cared about that in Tennessee. Nobody cared about it. I couldn't believe it. My ego, I had to put it in my pocket because nobody else cared about my ego.
Yeah. Your ego is not your amigo, remember?
No, it's not my amigo. Exactly. But anyway, and though I had more time than the person I went to work for, Terry DeSelms, thank God for Terry DeSelms. He got me off the ground here in Middle Tennessee, #1 agent at the time in the whole state of Tennessee. He put me, I think I was on a 40-60 split for the first 20 transactions, something like that. But if it wasn't for him to help me, because I didn't know anybody here. And so that's what I knew I could make a living out of his garbage can compared to, I was struggling. I had come to work for another gentleman who owned his own company at that time, And he put me in a trailer on Anderson Road in Antioch and said, "Good luck." And I said, "Good luck with what?" You know? He goes, "Well, we're gonna start building this little development right over here." They didn't have a model home. They didn't have anything, any evidence of success. And back then, of course, this was 28 years ago. He handed me a phone book and said, "Start dialing." Start dialing. Well, I'll tell you what, that was not my way of connecting or doing business, and it was very, very intimidating. But in that process, my point is that I want to get to is, first of all, even with more experience than the person I went to work for, I went on a 40-60 split. Mm-hmm. Why did I do that? Because I needed this thing called inertia and momentum. Okay, the challenge that I know that you face, TJ, and that is taking somebody from scratch and lifting them up, only them to say, "Hey, I don't like my split." Well, look, and then you have to take the time to show them your expenses, your effort, where they were when they started, maybe, and this kind of stuff. And hey, at the end of the day, everybody's got to be them. And sometimes relationships are for a season, and I'm good with all that, all that stuff. But anyway, I just wanted to share real quickly my story of coming here with more experience than the person I went to work for, but yeah, he was gracious enough to start handing me leads, and that inertia that I talk about, that momentum. I call momentum your fickle lover, because, man, she may be working good for you one day, and holy cow, what happened? If you don't continually give her all the love and gratitude and attention that you.
Here's the thing, people have to understand. I think stats came out earlier this month, right at the beginning of the year. I'd say there's about 1.6 million agents across the country in the United States. 1.1 million of those agents did not sell a house last year in 2024. Yeah. You have to understand that the illusion of the simplicity of our job is we are high-level problem solvers. We are people that understand behaviors, mindsets. We have to think through financial components. We have to think through strategic negotiations. We have to think through protecting our clients when we're dealing with maybe unethical people or aggressive people or salespeople, right? I mean, there's so many factors that come into play. And so when you're coming into the industry and you're just thinking you're going to throw up a Facebook post and get all this business, or even if I did put the business in your hand, and good luck, right? What do you do with it? I guarantee you're stuck.
Right.
Because, when you start dealing with professionals like yourself and other high-level agents, you start realizing that they make it really look easy until they drop the ball in your court, especially carrying what you guys do and how you guys think through problems and 8-day closings, things like that. So a lot of times we underestimate that collaboration. And I think when you're talking about going far, when you're talking about thinking with a high-level business mindset, when you talk about some of the largest companies in the country, it is based on very willing, capable, intelligent people collaborating. And if you don't have that heart to work together with others, everybody wants to be the big dog.
Right.
Everybody wants to be the one that gets all the credit, all the glory. And I think it's the silliest mindset that keeps you limited. If you don't know how to delegate, if you don't know how to share, if you don't know how to bring others in that can help you. Even thinking about this show right now, none of us, if you guys could see the setup in here, would be able to put together this setup. I did pull up a couple books. I mean, I had to go back to my communication days. But I mean, this kind of stuff is collaborating to do these things well is what helps us as professionals get better, is what helps us find more success. And our clients can see the difference when you got one person trying to be a one-man band and a person that operates within a well-oiled collective and an inclusive group that says, hey, we've got people in position that want to see you win, and we're going to make sure that you have a great experience. It's such a night and day difference as a professional.
Yeah, I love that. Someone like myself, I never joined a team, but I knew I needed to understand all of the different hats before I could even call myself a success or even get to the front of the room. And so being somebody who was an assistant, to an operations gal, being a processor, being an underwriter, understanding all that, I think the quote they say sometimes it takes years for a person to become an overnight success. We forget that if you really want to be that true overnight success, it takes time, right? You have to trust in the journey and understanding. You know, a lot of people that I coach and mentor, they just want it tomorrow, you know, and you and I want a lot of things, you know, tomorrow, as in 24 hours, but it does take, you know, the time. You've got, you said 41
years last month.
41 years. There's so much, and you probably have seen some repeats, right? Because history does repeat itself, you know, over and over in time. But I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful that I gave myself the time and learned every aspect of the business, because I am able to sit there. How does one know how to do a closing in 8 days unless you've been, you know, understanding all the aspects of the business? You know, and you can join real estate team in multiple different ways, right? You could assist the back house for 6 months, you know, and you could then, you know, mentor, you know, a salesperson for 6 months. I do believe going into it, being very upfront with your plans, I think is key. You know, if you know that you're here to learn and to move on, right?
Yeah.
I think you should be clear with that. I think we as support systems and leaders then can appreciate that and can ignite, you know, your training and coaching around, you know, your needs and wants. There's other people like Sean and I have been together 16 years, you know, like together, working as a team. Now we're brother and sister, and it's finish each other's sentences and all the things, but that's taking a decision that we wanted to be. He was okay being in the side cart of the motorcycle, you know, type of thing. That was an agreement that he and I both had, you know, as partners. So again, there's both ways, you know.
And not everybody wants
to
to be the lead dog, you know.
Right.
Honestly, people were surprised when I took a secondary role here at Realty One Group, just to be no longer the owner, but the managing broker. But my comfort zone is to be that person holding the other person's arms up. You know, I used to be in a ministry of helps at a church where I was doing all the things for the pastor. So this is far more comfortable for me to have the ability to help TJ when he's got a situation, which is not very often anymore. I miss those conversations, brother. But to fulfill that. So anyway, TJ, so are you still growing your team, or are you good right now?
Yeah, I think I've got 4 great team members. We're in a good, stable spot. You know, and obviously I want to create opportunities for them, so I don't want to water down with too many positions. And so I love the camaraderie we've got right now. Everybody's kind of bought in, and ultimately I think it's a great place to be. But I think too, many of them came to me brand new. And I love how, you know, now when they go and talk to other agents and people reach out to them about it, it's like, okay, let me just help you understand realistic perspective here. But, you know, they have seen how I operate at a certain standard and the why behind it. I mean, I have a big why for the team. And so ultimately I think that helps them kind of understand. But no, ultimately, I mean, we've got a good group. I like what we're doing, and you know, ultimately, we want to kind of expand that going into 2025.
Now, is your team more of a tribe, collective, on the sense of each person has their own brand and they're going after their own business, or are you leading the ship with lead generation and you're, you know, cultivating those lead opportunities and handing those out?
Yeah, and so a little bit of both. I mean, I think ultimately I want them to work their networks. I think that's really important. And I think I brought them in because they had a reach maybe where I didn't. Sure. And so ultimately having them work their networks. I've got one in the music industry. I've got one that's been in Nashville for a very long time. I've got one that is an educator. And so, you know, they all have, I've got one that used to be a job recruiter for years. So they all have these very unique networks that I want them to tap into, look for opportunities that they can bring. And then, of course, I want to nurture them into those spaces. And then, of course, when I have our opportunities, a lot of times I'm giving them those spaces to share with me, so that way we can try to tackle things together, and they have the opportunity to learn as well. Yeah. So it's a little bit of a hybrid, but I told them, I said, hey, listen, I'm more of a mentor team lead here. So if you're coming looking for me to hand out just kind of empty leads, that's not really what I'm doing. We're very intentional about what we do, and when I give you an opportunity to work with a client, it's an opportunity. It's
Yeah.
not something we have to throw to the trash can. So ultimately,
And
I
a
try to
privilege,
give them
yeah.
a higher
Yeah.
level of success when I try to help them out. So.
I love that. And again, you bring so much more to the table than just a lead, right? Your
Right.
coaching, your mentorship,
Right.
your scripting, the way and your past. I think we bring a lot to the table with our previous careers, and that can look in multiple different, those can look different all across the board, but you've got a great team. From my standpoint, even kind of mentoring and coaching loan officer teams, we see different hybrids of that. Being a controller, being a woman of my word, you calling me TJ, I need to make sure that I have immediate success, right? That I know that everything is running like a very well-oiled machine. So I am different than other teams. I'm very systematic, and there's a beginning, middle, and end every single time. It's the same process every single time. And so you'll find that my team members are not really bringing much lead opportunities in, but they are working and we're growing, our partnerships together, as one team. And so again, there's different looks and feel even within the real estate, business.
By the
too.
way, this putting this most recent one together that we're working on.
Yes.
In record time. I don't know. I didn't
Closing
count the
Friday, I
days.
heard.
Yeah, it is, but it probably could have closed today, I guess.
Yeah.
It's been clear to close for a while. But anyway, thank you for that. Carry on before I don't want to forget that. But so TJ, let's jump for another topic, because I know we have a limited amount of time here.
Sure.
And I always love your perspective. So you're talking to one of your team members right now, and you're explaining to them their script maybe, or their presentation to the consumer after our recent lawsuit. How do you handle that? Okay, I'm anxious to hear that.
Yeah. Can you guys believe the hysteria that's been around it?
No,
Can you believe some of the, just blatantly incorrect headlines from some of the very large news sources?
Yeah, terrible.
I think when you're looking
Can we
at
really believe that? I mean, it's the media.
Well, and that's
They're trying to turn it in.
that's the thing. It's like, but in reality, you're hoping that the media does the appropriate job in vetting
You
the
would think,
information
yeah.
that they publish.
No.
And so
The
ultimately,
truth doesn't sell, brother.
yeah, well, I guess so. It's probably a much buzzier headline that you don't have to pay agents anymore versus no, you just have to have an agreement about it. It's a very different language. And so,
And now you get to negotiate rather than accept somebody
well, exactly. And here's the thing. You scale the thing down. Really, it's just the thing of the DOJ, however they wanted to settle it. Really, we're just more so in a space where transparency is required. Outside of the MLS, I don't get that part, but nonetheless, transparency is required to where, in the event that a seller does not want to offer compensation, it used to be required that they had to have some kind of minimal. Now they can offer nothing. That you need to have agreements in place with your buyer representatives, so that that there's no confusion about what you're going to be compensated in the transaction. Here's the thing, all in all, most sellers are really looking at, when I'm talking to my sellers now, we're telling them, this is more so a marketing fee. You have to understand how this market is set up. You have to understand how it works. I have to work with my colleagues to bring qualified buyers. Qualified buyers want representation. So they don't just walk smart ones. Right. I just had a call from a client today that, she was like, well, I know you got upset because I didn't use you. The for sale by owner home I bought, didn't get, they wanted me to not bring you in, but I just was looking at my paperwork and I noticed they didn't give me any closing costs. Aren't they supposed to pay closing costs? It's something that gets negotiated, but buyers want representation. So that means if a well-qualified buyer that's coming with cash, that's coming with a conventional approval, quick approval, whatever it may be, and they can get this transaction done for you before you get to experience any of your equity, that means we want to help incentivize those agents that have those buyers, because the odds of a qualified buyer looking for a home that's coming by themselves is very slim. It happens, but it's very slim. And even if it did happen, guess what? I got to do more work. So you're not, I mean, you're going to have to pay me to take care of both sides.
Right.
We're helping them understand you're paying to market your property well. Home values have typically always been appraised with realtor commissions built in most cases. And so it's not like, trying to help people understand, you thinking you're going to cut out agents, it's not going to, you don't get the double dip. You don't get the high value assessment and not pay anybody. That means your value's coming down 9 times out of 10. So ultimately, just telling people to scale down, hey, just have an agreement with your buyers and just explain to them what's going on, but let them know, hey, a lot of sellers are still offering compensation, but I just want you to know worst case scenario.
Are you seeing percentages negotiated still, or are you seeing like a lump sum dollar figure?
It's typically, in my experience, it's around 2.5% seems to be the common number. I mean, we can still get 3 sometimes, but that seems like the most common number. It seems like it dropped. Everybody's okay with now suddenly 2. And I've seen some other cases where the listing agreement agent was keeping 3% and offering 2 or 2.5, that kind of situation. But what I want to get back to, though, TJ, as far as you're concerned, is I don't believe that this whole change caused you to even hiccup. Even the stutter step. Did it slow you down at all?
No, it didn't.
And here's what I want to get at. Thank you for confirming that. You know why? Because the messenger is believable. Okay?
Right.
And this is really important, guys. Before the message can be received, you got to believe the messenger.
Right.
And why do you believe the messenger, TJ? Because you got a conviction that you know in your heart of hearts that you know your stuff.
Right.
And why do you know your stuff?
Right.
Because you've studied to show yourself approved. You've studied to be excellent at what you do.
Yeah.
And that's the number one key to this whole thing, I think, is first of all, understand the limitations, which is, again, not a big deal. We're negotiating our own commission based on what we feel that we're worth in conjunction with our buyer. And we've had all this whole explanation that hopefully everybody understands by now. But it starts with being confident within yourself. If I know that I'm the best for these folks, one of the best, a lot of great realtors out there, then I shouldn't have a problem recognizing or helping them recognize that I'm a worthy servant to them to help them accomplish their goals. Right. So that's what I think is so awesome when you get up in front of a crowd, and you've done this for us for a couple times now. The thing that was so amazing to me was, well, there's no question. If somebody's working with TJ Ojehomon, there's no question in their mind of his value. So if we lead with value, I don't think we'll have nearly as much trouble communicating, verbally or written that value and getting their agreement.
I think, we have to do a better job as an industry about getting a client's buy-in. We have to do a little bit better about helping them understand what it is we're doing and what we want to do on their behalf. It's about helping them win. We've got to start telling them that because sometimes, and I get it. Here's the thing. I mean, you come into the real estate industry, unless you get with a good mentor, you're kind of winging it. And sometimes
you're practicing on the consumer, and that's the result of the lawsuit.
Exactly.
Practicing.
And ultimately, when you start having these market shifts to where it's like, we want to only work with the best folks now, you what used to be hard and fast has definitely changed its momentum. It's changed its tone. One of the things we do, I do a 3-step process with any buyer that I'm working with because it's so important that I get expectations set and I get their buy-in done. I want to have an initial phone consultation with them because I just want to hear their story. I want to hear what's going on. I want to hear the background about what's important to them. I know you want to buy a house, but what's the why behind that? What's the timeline associated? What's going on? After we kind of get a little bit of bleeding, and I kind of hear pouring out, then we want to formalize it into what we call a consultation. And this is where we talk about, based on your needs, here's the strategy I want to propose, and here's the information to do that. And after that consultation, we want to confirm if they would like to proceed with the business. That's important before I even send the agreement. I want to confirm, would you like to work together in the discussion and the method that we talked about? Did you have questions? Did you need clarity? And they've heard me listen to them. They heard me educate them. I got their permission. By the time it's time to sign the agreement and work with my lenders, we're bought in.
Yeah.
I don't have to convince them
Right.
on the first phone call.
Right.
Here, I need you to do this, and if you can do this. Now, sometimes, if you're just that agent that everybody wants to work with for whatever reason, you've got some kind of magical touch that nobody else knows about, then maybe you have that benefit to not have to vet, to not have to consult. But, ultimately, a lot of times people don't know what they're getting, and they don't know the difference between this or that. They haven't bought homes in years. This is their first time buying a house. This is an investment transaction now, and it's a little bit different investment involved. But ultimately, my job is to make sure I've walked them down some kind of formalized path to where they're bought in and we're on the same page before we get out in the field. A lot of times we cause conflict with clients. We can potentially become combative, or we can be overwhelmed, stressed, or frustrated as an agent because we're just trying to take these orders that are just unreasonable. And so I try to eliminate that. When you talk about authority, that's really where I want to use it, is just to say, hey, listen, I want to educate you first. I've done enough of these transactions to where I want to make sure that I can give you a heads up about what's out there.
And I think as a real estate agent, probably for years, even with loan officers, what was, you just kind of go with the flow, right? You don't actually have to worry about having a confidence and or structure around a certain topic because everybody just did it. So you just went with the flow and it was just a customized thing, right? Even though that wasn't the case or wasn't supposed to be the case, and so being able to take the time to step back, build your confidence up, learn how you're speaking to the buyer, right? And practice that over and over and over again. And then all of a sudden it becomes simple, right? It becomes a way of a buyer's agent's life, that now this is what you do. But if you've never done it before, it is hard. It's scary, right? It's you're stepping out of your comfort zone. I remember for years, I never did luxury transactions because it was out of my comfort zone. At the end of the day, it's just a different loan size.
Yeah, right.
But I was so scared to talk to you because you scared me, type of thing. You were going to say something that maybe I didn't know. And then you just start to realize this is the same script I say over and over and over again with a different person because my heart, like you said from the beginning, my heart is in the right place. My commitment towards serving and helping, the next is always in the right place. So that part, I think for real estate agents, depending upon where you are, in the business, and it goes back to what we always talk about on this, truly being the CEO of your own business, being, the person that is running the business, right? You're just not an average Joe. You're the product with a side of real estate. So feeling more confident within your abilities, I think that you're deserving of it and you're worthy of it. So that's what I believe.
TJ, thank you for joining us today. I wish we could go further. I know you're on limited time frame. I don't want to hold you up.
This was always so good. I love having you here. Thanks,
I know.
TJ,
we need to do this
here.
more often. You're awesome, man. Before we close today, I want to also remind everybody, I've been on a rant here recently about promoting this book that I think is so relevant to our careers as realtors. Yes.
I love it.
And that is it's called Unreasonable Hospitality. There's very little difference between us and those that are serving around a table. This book was written by the guy who runs the #1 restaurant in the world. So you can imagine, but by embracing the concepts here, you realize that, wow, if we're really going to build a future in our industry, we're going to take TJ's approach of building a relationship first, okay? Building confidence first, building that reputation that precedes us. It's not a transaction. It's a relationship it's the needs of a consumer that are being fulfilled in an excellent manner.
Right.
Thank you, TJ, for being
Each and every time.
Clients are getting smarter. We've got to get better. That's just bottom line.
Love that.
Let's do it.
Amen.
Thanks for being here. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. You've been listening to The Talk of Music City Real Estate.